You have no control. They've made you believe that you do, that you can shape every aspect of your life, that every decision you make brings you closer or further from the future you imagine. But the reality is different. You control almost nothing. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you will be free. Look around you. Everything that you are, what you've been, what you'll be, how much of that was truly your choice? You didn't choose where you were born, nor the family you grew up in. You didn't choose the first words you were taught, nor the fears that were instilled in you. You didn't decide what culture would shape your mind, what wounds would mark your character, what opportunities would present themselves to you. You've lived believing that you are the architect of your destiny, but the truth is harsher. The destiny was already written, and you're just following the script. And I know what you're thinking. If I have no control, then what's the point of all this? Here's where the only choice that really matters comes in. You can hate what life has given you, or you can love it. Not resign yourself to it. Love it. That is AMOR FATI. It's not accepting with a forced smile. It's not pretending everything is fine when it clearly isn't. It's looking at every moment, every wound, every blow life has given you and saying, "This is mine. I embrace it. I make it part of me." It's the difference between being a slave to destiny or its ally. It's the difference between dragging invisible chains or walking with your head held high without fear. Think about it. How many times have you regretted something that happened? How many times have you wished you could change the past, erase a mistake, redo a decision? You think regret serves a purpose, but it's nothing but a trap. Because every time you drown in the, "What if I had done this?" or the, "I wish things were different," all you're doing is wasting more of your life on something that will never change. It's a form of self-deception. And the worst part is, you know it, but you keep doing it. Regret is a slow poison. It ties you to an immovable past and prevents you from moving in the present. But there's a way to break that chain. Stop wishing things had been different. Not just accepting what happened, but loving it. Because if you love your fate, if you embrace everything that's happened to you, both good and bad, you gain something few have: freedom. But here comes the hardest part. Because loving your fate is not just accepting what suits you, it's also accepting pain, loss, suffering. It's looking chaos in the eye and saying, "Do what you have to do, I'll be here." Because if you can only love the good, you haven't understood anything. Think about the darkest moments of your life, the blows that hurt the most, the defeats that brought you to your knees. Would you like to erase them? Would you wish they had never happened? Sounds tempting, right? But if you erase them, you also erase what you learned from them. You take away the chance to have grown, to have been strengthened. You would be someone else, and not necessarily someone better. AMOR FATI is not for the weak. It's for those who are willing to look at reality without filters and accept it in its entirety. It's for those who understand that life is not about eliminating suffering, but about finding meaning in it. Because if every pain, every failure, every fall becomes a brick in your strength, then you will never lose. No matter what happens, you will always come out stronger. And that is what Nietzsche understood better than anyone. Now, there's something else, something most ignore. Because AMOR FATI is not just a philosophical idea, it's a challenge. Nietzsche puts it forth with a brutal question. If your life had to repeat infinitely, exactly as it has been so far, without changing anything, would you accept it? That's the ultimate test. Because if the answer is no, it means you are living wrong. It means you're running away from your own fate, that you don't love it, that you're enduring it with resentment rather than embracing it with strength. If you couldn't live your life over and over again without regretting anything, then you're doing something wrong. And here's where the true power lies. Because when you begin to live with the idea that each moment is eternal, every decision takes on a different weight. You no longer do things out of inertia. You no longer make decisions without thinking about their true meaning. If every action had to repeat for eternity, would you do it? If every word you say had an infinite echo, would you speak it? Eternal recurrence is not a punishment, it's an opportunity. It's the most brutal way to force yourself to live authentically, courageously, without excuses. If you accept this challenge, then every second of your life becomes something sacred. There are no insignificant moments. There are no actions without weight. Everything you do has an eternal impact. And this is where most fail, because AMOR FATI is not a refuge for the weak, it's a weapon for the strong. It's not a passive resignation, it's an act of rebellion against nihilism, against despair, against fear. It's a shout in the middle of chaos. Yes, I accept whatever comes. When you love your fate, when you stop lamenting, when you live with the certainty that every second is eternal, you become something different. You become someone who doesn't fear, who doesn't doubt, who doesn't hide. You become the Ubermensch that Nietzsche talked about, a being who does not surrender, who creates their own values, who does not let life defeat them, but instead shapes it with their own hands. And here comes the big question. Are you ready for that? Are you ready to let go of resentment, to leave regret behind, to live in a way where you wouldn't change anything you do? Because that's the real challenge. And most will fail. Most will keep lamenting, wishing things were different, stuck in the what if. But you can be different. You can make the decision right now. You can look at your life, with all its mistakes, with all its falls, with all its pain, and say, I accept it. I wouldn't change it for anything. And if you really do that, if you manage to get to the bottom of this idea and embrace it with all your being, then nothing will stop you. Because the one who loves their fate has no fear. They have no doubts. They have no chains. They only have freedom. But the true test is not just accepting your fate when things are going well. It's not loving your life when everything fits perfectly. The real test is in the moments of despair, in those days where everything seems like a cruel joke of the universe. It's easy to say, I love my fate when things go as you expect, but what happens when everything collapses? What happens when you lose someone, when the world spits in your face, when you feel like there's no way out? That's where it's decided who you really are. Because here's the secret no one wants to accept. Suffering is inevitable. There is no life without pain. There is no path without stumbling. And the sooner you stop fighting against that truth, the sooner you can move forward. Look at the strongest, at those who have left a mark, at those who have changed history. None of them lived without pain. But the difference between them and the rest of the world is that they didn't run from suffering. They used it. And here's where the power of transformation comes in. Because when you love your fate, when you truly embrace every blow, every wound, every failure, something changes inside you. You are no longer someone who suffers without purpose. You become someone who uses suffering as fuel, and that makes you dangerous. Dangerous to those who are still trapped in complaints, in pity, in the idea that life owes them something. Look around you. Most people don't live, they survive. They are trapped in their own narrative of victimhood. They tell themselves the same story over and over again. If this hadn't happened, if I had had another chance, if life had been fair. But life isn't fair. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you can do something with what you have. Because that's the key. Use what you have. Not what you wish you had. Not what you think you deserve. What you really have right now. If you keep waiting for life to lend you a hand, you'll be waiting forever. There are no saviors. There are no rescues. No one will come to fix your fate for you. No one will give you the perfect moment. And the sooner you stop waiting, the sooner you'll start moving. And moving is the only option. But not just any movement will do. There are two types of people. Those who move out of fear and those who move out of power. The former run because they fear being left behind, because they don't want to face the truth of their life. The latter move forward because they know that every step they take makes them stronger. And here's the brutal part. Fear and power sometimes feel the same. Think about it. How many times have you felt fear before doing something big? How many times have you felt that emptiness in your stomach before making an important decision? That vertigo, that feeling of uncertainty. That doesn't mean you're in danger. It means you're exactly where you need to be, because that's the key point. If you don't feel fear, it's because you're not moving enough. Those who understand this use it to their advantage. They don't run from fear, they turn it into their compass. If something scares them, they do it. If something makes them uncomfortable, they face it. Because they know that behind every fear, there's a better version of themselves waiting. And here's the big difference. Those who love their fate don't seek comfort. They don't seek guarantees. They don't seek security. They seek growth. And growth is never comfortable. It's never easy. It's never immediate. But it's the only way to live without regrets. Do you want an uncomfortable truth? The people you admire most, those who seem unbreakable, those who seem to have everything under control, they've all gone through moments when they wanted to give up. They've all had days when they thought they couldn't take anymore. But they kept going, not because they were stronger than you, but because they decided their fate was worth it. Because they understood it's not about eliminating pain, it's about giving it purpose. And here's where most fail. Because AMOR FATI is not a nice slogan to tattoo. It's not a motivational phrase to share on social media. It's a philosophy that is demonstrated with actions, not words. It's the difference between those who keep looking for excuses and those who, no matter what happens, keep moving forward. So tell me, are you willing to accept your fate? No buts, no conditions? Are you willing to look every failure in the eye and say, thank you? Because if you do, if you really do, something incredible will happen. Nothing will stop you. Not because the world stops putting obstacles in your way, but because you won't care anymore. When you love your fate, you stop fighting against life. You stop wasting time asking, why did this happen to me? You start asking, what can I do with this? And that's where everything changes. Because the one who stops fighting with their past becomes unstoppable in their present. AMOR FATI is the ultimate revolution. It's the most powerful weapon against nihilism, against despair, against mediocrity. It's the decision that no matter what happens, you will move forward. And when you understand it, when you make it yours, when you live it every day, there's no turning back. Because the one who loves their fate becomes something the world fears, someone who cannot be broken. And here's where everything converges. Everything we've talked about so far, everything that has crossed your mind in this video, every idea that's echoed in your head, makes no sense if you don't do something with it. Because knowledge without action is useless. You can understand it, you can agree, you can feel something inside you has awakened. But if, when you close this video, you continue living the same way, then nothing will have changed. And this is where most fail. Because humans are experts at deceiving themselves. We like the idea of change. We like the feeling of understanding something deep. We like feeling like we're evolving. But in the end, when it's time to act, We return to the same old things. We return to our excuses, our fears, our comfort disguised as logic. The big question is, are you going to be just another one? Because here comes the uncomfortable truth. Most people who've made it this far won't do anything. They'll close this video, continue with their lives, distract themselves with something else, and all of this will fade away as a passing thought. But a few, a minority, will do something with this. A few will make different decisions after today. A few will stop lamenting, will stop complaining, and will start seeing every obstacle as an opportunity to grow. The question is, which side will you be on? Because you have two options. You can turn off this video and keep living the same way. Keep complaining about what's happened to you. Keep carrying the weight of the past as if it were an inevitable cross. Keep seeing fate as a prison instead of seeing it as a tool. Keep asking, why me, instead of, what can I do with this? Or you can make the only decision that truly matters. Start living as if this were eternal. Because you know what? There are no second chances, no turning back, no other attempt after this. This is your only life. And every second you spend doubting, lamenting, waiting for things to be different, is a second that will never come back. So decide. Right now. Either you keep going as you have been, or you embrace everything you are, everything that's happened to you, and use it as fuel to become unstoppable. Because the one who loves their fate doesn't waste time. They don't wait for the perfect moment. They don't hesitate to take action. They don't stop to look back with regret. Because every second counts. Every moment is unique. Every decision weighs. And when you understand this, when you truly absorb it, you realize that life is not something that just happens to you. It's something you choose to live. So tell me in the comments, are you going to love your fate, or will you continue being its slave? Right, I love my fate if you've understood the message. If this video made you think, if at any moment you felt that blow of reality, then subscribe. Because we're not here to sell you empty dreams or pretty phrases. We're here to wake up those who are ready. Like it if this made you see life in a different way. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, the one who loves their fate never loses.